Alrighty. Just working with the sound, y'all. Bear with me. Just making sure that I am heard and my sound is good because I think my old mic is no longer working. It's no longer with us at this point. But today's live is very impromptu. So I thank you all for coming through for me. Final check. All right, perfect. Sound is good. So skip to what? How many minutes are we in now? Like a few minutes, but I ain't here to talk about summer flying, y'all. This week, what week are we in? Like, let me before I start with the introduction and everything. Let me get the facts because yeah. So the week of what? The 12th of May to the 19th of May. I'm here to talk about that in relation to summer flying, among other things. And then I will talk about like other hot topics and stuff like that, or things that people have mentioned in my comments and stuff like that. But before I proceed, let me make sure that this trip that I posted for somebody to pick up, it's on the board appropriately. So somebody can pick it up because I'm not trying to work that trip, okay? If you're new to my channel, y'all, my name is Francilla. I am a Seattle-based flight attendant working with a major US airline company. And in today's video, I will be talking about summer flying, just the experience overall as a flight attendant, and how my last week was because before that, I worked over the weekend. I did like 2 trips within the past 2 weeks, so I haven't been out and about that much. However, last week I did like a full week of work. So I worked Sunday to Tuesday, then I had Wednesday, Thursday off. Then I did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I was like out and about in that airport in those planes, y'all. But it was a tough week. And I know I'm talking about summer flying because we're technically not necessarily in summer yet. However, the effects of summer flying is literally showing itself, y'all. And like I'm saying, I'm going to be talking about my last week. And let's talk about the trips that I worked, y'all. I did go to Atlanta. I know. If you're a regular here, you know that I have vowed to avoid Atlanta. I have vowed to avoid Atlanta. However, hear me out. Sometimes, at least with my airline, when the trips touch Atlanta, the credits are usually better. So it's one of those things where it's like a necessary evil, but it's just a lot. But the reason why I'm doing this live today once again is to talk about summer flying and how tough it's becoming already, even though we're not even in summer. So I started my week by working it was a Detroit turn. So I did a Detroit turn and that was a lot, y'all. My God, that was a lot. Bad weather, delay. Like the plane literally came in late, y'all. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. Sunday was crazy. Last 2 weeks, Sunday was a lot. And I started off with that. Then I had an Atlanta 2 days. So on that 2 day trip, it actually turned out to be good. And this is when I tell you all that I did to avoid Atlanta, this is the reason why people don't like Atlanta. When I first started as a new flight attendant, y'all, I was trying to be cute. I was like, you know what? Give it a benefit of the doubt. It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. So it was that bad. It's been that bad. But one of the reasons why people don't like going through Atlanta, as much as it's one of our biggest or largest hub, our headquarters or whatever, is simply because they play too much. They play too much. Like they do the most over there. Like the next thing you know, you're supposed to work a trip to somewhere else, and Atlanta feels like no. We want you to do something else, and then here you are doing something else. And I know everything about this job is uncertain, and it's not permanent, and it's not fixed. But one of the benefits of being line holders or being on a assigned trip and not necessarily being on reserve is the guarantee, is the belief or the understanding that for the most part, whatever you have on your line or your schedule is going to remain the way it is. At least, even if it's 100% guaranteed, like there's like a 70-80% chance guarantee. And we like that, okay? We enjoy that. So for you to have Atlanta on your rotation and for you to, before you even touch down in Atlanta, get flipped, twisted, turned, pulled, tossed, and your rotation just flipped upside down, you end up sitting or waiting for 4.5 hours, no, 5 hours actually, because it was 4 hours and 50 minutes, y'all. So initially we're supposed to do 3 legs, 3 flights that day, and then the next layover in Memphis, and then we're supposed to come back to Atlanta the next day and then go to Seattle from Atlanta. That was the plan. It was a cute little plan. We were good with it. All of a sudden, y'all, weather, which whenever we talk about summer flying, weather plays a huge role. Whatever happened in the East Coast, southern part of the East Coast happened. And before we touched down, our rotation got changed. Like we got rerouted to do something else. And honestly, it wasn't a bad reroute, because it reduced the amount of flights we're supposed to do that day to 2 instead of 3. So it's not a bad idea. However, it's the things that happened afterwards that made it bad, in the sense that we had to sit in the airport for 4 hours and 50 minutes because the aircraft that came in had a mechanical issue. That was a whole situation that is for another day. So that happened. And then because of that, we ended up sitting at the airport for almost 5 hours. And these are the moments that when people are out there arguing that you have to pay flight attendants more, we're not getting paid our time, we're not getting paid our work. This is the reason why. Because remember that the 5 hours that I sat there at that airport, not in the air, not in no aircraft, all I was getting paid was my per diem, which is like $2 and some change, y'all. I wasn't getting paid my hourly pay of $35.85, or for your senior person, 76, whatever, and some change. Okay. We're not getting paid that time, yet I'm spending all that time away from home, y'all. And it wasn't, these are the moments when people argue that our pay is not good enough, because you spend so much time away from home compared to somebody who works a 9 to 5. If you go to work and you're working 8 hours a day, lunch might be 1 hour. So essentially you're probably at home from work, you're away from home for like about 9 hours or whatever. However, if you do a job, for example, that you're getting paid during your lunch, all that is covered. But for us, it's not. Like you're still away for the most part where you're not getting paid your hourly pay. So we spent 5 hours in the airport, y'all, waiting for a new plane, trying to figure out what's going to happen. We ended up working that flight only to get to our hotel, the supposed hotel we're supposed to go to in Atlanta. Because initially we were supposed to lay over in Memphis, and they got us another hotel somewhere else. I can't remember. It was Atlanta. So we're supposed to, so what happened was that we were supposed to do Seattle to Orlando, Orlando to Atlanta, Atlanta to Memphis. But we ended up getting stuck in Orlando because of God knows what happened. And they got us to work this Atlanta flight, or changed our rotation to get us to just work the Atlanta flight. And the delay happened. The delay was 5 hours, y'all. The delay was 5 hours. And we get to Atlanta, and the hotel we're supposed to stay at, we get to the hotel, yo. Mind you, this was like after midnight. It was like almost 2 a.m. at this point. We get to the hotel, y'all. We get to the lobby, and even before we get through the door, the receptionist is like, I told them to not let you guys come. Our systems are down. We can't assign rooms, y'all. Those were the words that was thrown at us even before we could fully get ourselves through the door into the hotel lobby. And I don't blame them, because if they specifically told our people that, hey, our systems are down, we cannot assign rooms, and it's the time is like literally past midnight, somebody who is in charge of accommodation should have thought it wise to get us a plan B. Figure out that plan B, call back to the original hotel to see if their systems are back up during the time we're sitting at that airport waiting for that plane before even working that flight. But they did not do that. So we get to the hotel and we don't have a room. Their systems are down. They literally have security downstairs taking people to their room because of their system being down. We sat there for almost 2 hours. So after sitting at that airport for 5 hours, working that flight eventually with people that were angry because they had been sitting at that airport for God knows how long before we got there, we get to our hotel thinking that our backs are covered, our company or whoever's in charge of our accommodations has sorted that out. We get to the hotel and they don't have a room for us, y'all. And we're stuck at that lobby, just chilling. Luckily, the hotel lobby had a microwave. So I was able to heat up my food and eat, because the hotel that they finally got for us after 2 hours of sitting at that hotel, the other hotel, did not have a microwave. Apparently they had no microwave in the entire hotel. It beats my imagination. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But if you're a flight attendant who meal preps or takes their own food with them, you understand the importance of having a microwave. And yes, I have Hot Logic, but I didn't bring it that day because per my rotation, I was supposed to go to a hotel with a microwave, okay? So don't come for me. Don't argue with me in the comment section about Hot Logic, okay? But we get to the hotel, no rooms. 2 hours later, that's when we get a room. So that's how I started off my week, y'all. That's how I started off my week. Sunday going to Detroit. Monday, Tuesday, trying to go to Memphis, but ended up in Atlanta, getting rerouted, delays. It was just stressful. I come back for a 2-day, then I work another trip, y'all. And the trip that I worked this time, it was a Atlanta turn. So I know I said I avoid Atlanta, but like I said before, Atlanta trips typically have the high credit for us, and a lot of our trips do touch Atlanta. So I don't want it by default when schedules are released, but if I see that the trip is worth my time and my money, I'm willing to work it. So I pick up this Atlanta turn. It was supposed to be a cute little turn. I've done it several times before. I stopped bidding for Atlanta or started avoiding Atlanta. So it's not a big deal. It's pretty normal, pretty chill. But this turn, it was cool. The crew that I worked with were amazing, but it was just delays, bad weather, and it's supposed to be summer. I thought summer was sunny and clear, but thunderstorms, I don't know. This is one of the things that scares me when it comes to moving to the East Coast or being based on the East Coast, is because it's like there's always a weather issue there, one way or the other. There's always something. There are thunderstorms, there are winds. There's always something over on the East Coast, y'all. And when you're on the West Coast and you see all that going on there, I really want to do New York, y'all. I really want to do New York, but every single time I work towards the East Coast and I experience these hardships, these tough times, it makes me wonder, do I really, really want to do New York, y'all? But I guess it's not for the faint of heart, y'all. You have to be mentally ready for it. So your girl ends up doing Atlanta turn again. We had weather back and forth, issues here and there, delays, sits getting longer than they should. I was so exhausted from that trip. I was so exhausted. And summer flying, it's summer. We're not in summer yet, y'all. Technically, we're not in summer yet. But these delays and these reroutes are real. And if you're planning on becoming a flight attendant, you have to be mentally prepared for it. Like, you have to understand that whether you're on reserve or you're a line holder, nothing is guaranteed. Whatever your trip or your rotation is set to be, nothing is guaranteed. Whatever you think you're entitled to, you are not entitled to it. Your life, essentially, when you clock in, is literally in the hands of crew scheduling. Like, anything can be done with you. They can lose you, forget about you, or just flip your rotation into whatever it is that they want. So if you're thinking of becoming a flight attendant and it's pretty, we're going to Amsterdam. Honestly, the only trips that have a higher level of guarantee in terms of outcome are international trips like to Europe, Asia, Africa. And even with that, it's not foolproof. But at least those are the trips that I can confidently tell you have a higher level of guarantee in terms of outcome. But anything else, I'm sorry. So if you're thinking of becoming a flight attendant, prepare yourself for delays, prepare yourself for reroutes. In that trip that I shared earlier, we were supposed to go to Memphis and layover. So imagine if we made plans, y'all, and somebody did make plans. And I feel like whenever we make a plan, we jinx the rotation because she made plans, and I told her, why did you make plans? Because the last time I worked with her, I made plans and we got rerouted. And this time around, she made plans and we got rerouted. So please, if you're thinking of becoming a flight attendant, I am here. See, I have always said that this channel is here for people who are thinking of becoming flight attendants, individuals who are considering becoming flight attendants, or even becoming part of my, like, I am here for you. And the T here is that if you're thinking of becoming a flight attendant, prepare yourself for delays, prepare yourself for reroutes, prepare yourself to sit in some parking lot or at the airport waiting for your shuttle because crew accommodations forgot to get your shuttle, or whatever happened with the planning committee, something did not work out the way it was, or you are like crew scheduling has no tracking for you. Like, whoever's tracking you has lost track of you. So a lot of things are going to happen. And if you're a new flight attendant getting on the line right before summer, brace yourself. One thing I will say is pay attention to your work roles. If you have questions, do ask them, and ask if you're working with senior people, ask them like, what are the implications of A, B, C, D? If we get rerouted, what are the implications? If we end up having to sit here for this long, what are the implications, pay-wise or even time-wise? What happened? You know, if you get worked into your rest time right before the next rotation you have prior to what you're working out, what are the implications? Because these are the moments that, because so much is going on, crew scheduling might intentionally or unintentionally take advantage of you as a flight attendant or as a crew member. So you have to be on top of it. If you don't know, ask. And I know these are the times where the option to opt off, I know from the passenger perspective, you're like, I've been delayed here. What do you mean you guys have timed out? Work the flight. Like, I have been delayed. I missed my connecting flight. I did this. But as a passenger, if you're watching this video, take note of the fact that whenever we're on those planes, aside from serving you all your cookies and chips, your pretzels or whatever snacks or food that we're serving and smiling and just providing that customer and wholesome customer service experience, that is only honestly 30% of the job. 70 to 80% of our job is our safety related. And if I max out on my duty day and I time out and I opt off not to continue to work, if I continue to do so, I am putting your life at risk and I'm putting my life at risk. If I'm fatigued and I feel like I'm not in the best condition to continue this work or work this flight, fine. You might think it's just as simple as me getting on that plane, serving you your snacks for you to get to your final destination. However, if anything safety related should happen, if an emergency should happen, and I'm not in the clear state or the clear mind because I'm fatigued, because I'm maxed out of my duty day, it puts your life at risk. It puts your life at risk. If we have to evacuate the aircraft, your life is at risk. If somebody has a heart attack, your life is at risk. And trust me, those things are real. We literally had a passenger have a heart attack in the parking lot, literally turning purple before our eyes, literally choking out, like they were going, if not gone already. And the fact that it took the effort of flight attendants to revive this individual and a bystander, it's just like, that's how critical things can be. So it's not just a matter of cookies and chips. So why are you timing out and why are you opting out to work? No, our duty days, at least with my airline, is 15 hours in a minute, which means from time to clock in to the time that I max out is 15 hours. So if I've been on duty for 15 hours and in between all this, there have been delays, we have to change aircraft, and now the flight attendants or the crew members have maxed out of their duty day and they're opting not to continue to work the trip, and you're offended because they're opting out, just be thankful that you're safe now, because and if they choose to continue to work and something goes wrong and out of fatigue or stress or just tiredness, they're not able to perform up to their expectations, it goes against them. And I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to risk my employment simply because you want to make it to Miami, a 30-minute flight, or even if it's a 1 hour or 2 hour flight. Like, I'm not going to risk my job. So that's the reason why sometimes flight attendants do opt out. And potentials like this are bound to happen, especially during the summer, because summers delays happen, bad weather. Like when I did that turn that I'm talking about on Friday, that Atlanta turn, the weather was so bad. There was turbulence left and right that we could barely do service. So all these things are bound to happen. And if we have to go around the weather or we have to fly longer routes, that causes delays, that prolongs the crew members' duty period and potentially giving them the way or the option to opt off or just to time out of their duty day. So the next time you're out there trying to get to Miami, trying to get to Memphis or whatever, or trying to go somewhere, and you hear that crew members timed out and they opted off, please don't be angry. It's for all of us, our safety, because we've had planes land literally here in Seattle where they landed and the nose gear, underneath the nose gear set was ablaze. It literally just sparked fire and was burning. The aircraft was essentially on fire. And it took the assistance of crew members and obviously some passengers on board to evacuate the aircraft. Literally, they had landed and they were at the gate. So you're not safe until you're off of that aircraft, okay? Anything can happen, and crew members have to be alert throughout. So the next time there's a delay or anything happens, you're at the airport as a passenger, and you hear anything of the sort that crew members timed out and they decided to opt or to walk off and not continue working, It's for your safety and their safety, because our duty days are 15 hours, y'all. And remember, when we're delayed, it affects us crew members too. We're waiting at that airport with you. So it's not like we're in some lounge somewhere living our best lives. Okay, we're all waiting and anxiously, patiently waiting for whatever needs to be resolved so we can all work this flight and go about our life. So when you hear that during summer flying, opting off, not wanting to continue to work, don't blame nobody. Okay, it's the system. It's against all of us, you and I. It's not a personal attack on anybody. It's for your safety and it's for our safety. The other thing that I do want to talk about also is that sometimes if you're working during the summer, you are going to have reroutes, among other things. And this last week that I worked, I got rerouted twice on 2 of the trips that I worked. The first one was me supposed to lay over in Memphis, and I ended up laying over in Atlanta with no hotel room for me. And then also the last one that I did, the last 2 days that I did, where I was supposed to lay over somewhere. I can't even remember where I was supposed to lay over at, but I ended up having to I was supposed to lay over in Atlanta as well. Yes, I was supposed to lay over in Atlanta this time around, and I ended up laying over in Huntsville, Alabama. I had never been to Huntsville, so it was a nice experience. However, the plan was to lay over in Atlanta. Next thing I know, I was supposed to work 1 flight from Seattle to Atlanta, lay over in Atlanta, and then the next day do Atlanta to Boston, Boston to Seattle. However, due to reroutes and delays, before we even touched down, they changed our rotation. So we did that long flight thinking that we're going to lay over. The next thing we know, we're working a red eye to Huntsville, Alabama, and then to deadhead back. But that, even though we got rerouted and all that, and it was annoying and we weren't happy about it, it ended up being good for us, because in the long run, we essentially ended up working 2 flights, which was 1 long flight from Seattle to Atlanta, and then the Huntsville 30-minute flight, and we double deadheaded back home. So the following day, I didn't work any flight. All I did was to sit in 2 aircrafts to flight from Huntsville to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta back to Seattle without working any flight. And I still got paid during my deadhead as well, because some airlines don't pay their crew members for deadheads. So it ended up being good. So that's the other side of summer flying that I do want to talk about, is the fact that sometimes reroutes might happen, delays might happen, and it might be stressful and tiring, but it might potentially also work in your favor, in the sense that, let's say you're supposed to work 7 flights throughout your entire rotation. You might end up only working 2 or even 3 or even less. So keep that in mind. But summer flying is going to be tough. So just make sure that you're eating, you're drinking, you're staying hydrated, and you're taking care of yourself. And you're also paying attention to your work rules, because crew scheduling has a lot. And if we have like 28,000 flight attendants, right, with my airline alone, and maybe not all of us are active. Let's just say that 20,000 or 15,000 are active in the moment. They have to care for or cater to all these individuals. And sometimes you might get lost. We've had crew members who got rerouted so much that they got lost. Crew scheduling lost them, so they had no tracking of them. They literally thought they were supposed to be somewhere and they weren't even there, not even close to it. So you might get lost. So just make sure you're paying attention to your work rules. And if you have any questions and you're new, you're actually asking the senior people that you're working with, or even reaching out to your managers just to see what's going on, or your mentors as well, because you might be taken advantage of if you're not careful. So definitely pay attention to that. And bad weather. I know there was a video circulating on social media just recently, even before I started this live, where there was like bad turbulence, and it caused 1 person to go like literally gone up above or whatever, like die essentially. And then 30 people got hurt. When it comes to turbulence, y'all, it is very critical. It is very, very important. And I've had so many I've had certain passengers say, "Oh, you guys couldn't just service. The turbulence wasn't that bad. You couldn't do so," and they complain. And I'm like, at the end of the day, if you want to risk your life and die or get hurt because of cookies and chips, that's up to you. But as an individual, I'm not willing to do so. And a lot of the bad weather in the sky or storms in the skies, sometimes the radar might pick it up, sometimes it might not. Sometimes it takes our pilots communicating to air traffic control that, hey, we went through this route and we experienced this amount of turbulence or bad air, so let the others know. So fine, the weather people or whatever systems are managing or tracking the weather in the sky is there to give us updates as to what's changing, but sometimes it might not necessarily show. So it takes us experiencing the bad weather to communicate to air traffic control so that they can update and let other people know that, hey, this route is not safe, so go this way. But whenever you see that seatbelt sign on, please sit down. Worst case scenario, ask, hey, the seatbelt sign is still on. If you, let's say you haven't heard any announcement after like 30 minutes or an hour and you really want to get up, because at the end of the day, when that seatbelt sign is on, it means something. It means sit down and fasten your seatbelt. You never know when we're going to go over bad air or hit a bad air or hit serious turbulence. We've had moments during Christmas when I worked, we were working a flight. There was no record or trace or expectation of turbulence in any way. But that was the moment that I experienced the worst turbulence of my life as a flight attendant. Because as a passenger, I had a bad one years ago. But we were being tossed up and down in that galley. And guess what? We still had passengers who got up to go use the restroom, to do whatever. And mind you, there was warning, we made announcements, and they still got up. I literally, with my eyes, saw somebody get flipped left and right in between the seats. Literally, they got smacked on one side and smacked on the other. And they still did not take their seat and proceeded to use the restroom. And once that seatbelt sign is on and we make the announcement and we again remind you to take your seat and you refuse to do so, anything that happens after that, it's on you. And people can literally die from turbulence, y'all. We've had flight attendants, the aircraft dropped so much, so quickly that if it tossed the individual, their body hit the ceiling of the aircraft and they slammed on the floor of the aircraft. That's how dangerous turbulence can be. And now that we're entering into summer, be ready for thunderstorms, be ready for bad weather. So once that seatbelt sign is on, if you care about your life, fasten that seatbelt because you can get hurt. And like I said, there's a video literally circulated on social media right now about turbulence that hit one aircraft that was going somewhere. And one person literally is deceased from that incident. So it's not a joke. And those of you that sit on that plane that are like, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And you're hitting that call light, especially when the seatbelt sign is on and the pilot has made the announcement and the crew members has made the announcement. I'm sorry, but I am not risking my life because you want a bottle of Coke or a can of Coke or whatever. And let's take it seriously because if I get injured as a flight attendant, I'm there for your safety. So if I'm down, it's only 3 people down. Like if that's one man on the ground, and now it puts more pressure on my crew members. So we're all trying to be safe here. And now that we're entering summer weather, I know we're not allowed to bring liquids into the airport, but after security, there are water fountains that you can use to fill up your bottle. So bring a bottle, empty bottle, and refill it after you go through security. So you make sure you have water. If you know that you have a sugar issue, like me, I know that I have to at least have had some sort of sugar, whether it's candy, sweet fruit, or actual food. I need something in my system at least after a certain number of hours. So I pack my own snacks. I make sure I have cookies, I have treats, or I have snacks in my bag. So if you know you have a sugar level thing, make sure you're carrying your own snacks, or if you know you're going to be hungry, come along with something because there are no guarantees when we get up in the air. And once we're there, fine, we're hoping to provide you with the best customer service and take care of you and allow you to have the wholesome experience that you desire or you're entitled to. However, when bad weather approaches us, when we experience bad weather, safety comes first and safety trumps everything. So if you get up, you become a risk to yourself and somebody else. So if you're flying during the summer, please pay attention. Please listen to the rules and regulation. Don't get up when the seatbelt sign is on. When announcements are made, when you're physically told to sit down, please listen. It is for your own safety. Somebody literally just died because of turbulence, y'all. So it's not a joke at all. It is not a joke at all. All right. So now that I've shared my experience, like I said, I had bad reroutes between this whole entire week because of bad weather, turbulence, and it's one of those things where when you're a flight attendant, you kind of signed up for it as part. You should expect situations like that. But all you can do is to pray for safety and ensure that you're doing whatever you can to ensure your safety and other people's safety. Working during the summer can be tough. You can be rerouted. You might have plans of having certain days off. You can literally be worked into your off days and all that, and you can be rerouted, causing you to work more, or sometimes if you're lucky, less, which is also good. but these things will happen. So as a flight attendant, just prepare yourself for it. It's not always sweet. It's not always golden out here. Okay. But I do want to, now that I've shared my rough week with you all, I do want to respond to a few hot topics or questions that I had in some of my videos over the week as well. So one of the things that came up was the training videos, y'all. So if you even if you take a look at my description box right now, I have a link to a training video. Like I created a playlist of all the experience I had when I was in flight attendant training, and I tried to be as realistic as possible when I shared those videos, those weekly updates with you all. Disclaimer, those videos were not to scare you, but it was to let you all see the tough conditions or the experience that I was having, how tough it was. And honestly, those experiences build you up, because imagine the week that I had. I had a really bad week last week. Like it was just a lot of bad weather, turbulence, reroutes, delays, it was just too much going on, and it's not even summer yet, y'all. But when I look back to how my flight attendant training experience was, I feel like it set me up for moments like that. Let me get some air in here. It's getting hot. But I feel like my flight attendant training set me up for moments like that, because I was able to withstand it. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm over this. I'm not doing this anymore. Like I never got to that point, because when I look at what I went through during training, this is nothing but just a little bit of it, And I bring up my training videos because week 3 specifically, when we had ditching, emergency, and medical week, was the toughest week of all. Not necessarily academically, but the conditions we were put under. So if you watch that video, it's just to let you see the reality of what my experience was when I was going through flight attendant training. It's not to scare you, but it's to encourage you to know that even though I went through that, I still carried on and made it through, okay? So just know that if you're watching week 3's training video, there's light at the end of the tunnel, okay? But how I looked was how I felt in that moment. So that's the first thing. Those videos are just to encourage you all, especially if you're thinking of becoming a flight attendant or you're going for training or wherever it is that you are in your journey. The other thing that I do want to spend the rest of this live talking about, I'm trying to make this live very short. We're already at 32 minutes. I'm going to try and keep it short. But flight attendant pay. So one comment that I actually saw on one of my flight attendant pay videos was that flight attendants don't get paid as much as what I was saying in that video. And if you are new to this channel, you probably haven't watched a lot of my videos, so you probably don't know. But once again, I do have a playlist in the description box below where I provide a full breakdown of the flight attendant pay. One thing I will say is that flight attendant pay is public knowledge, y'all. You can go to flightattendant.org or flightattendant.org, I believe, and they have the full pay, hourly pay from first year to like cap out year of flight attendant pay. So it's public knowledge, it's not a secret, okay? However, one thing that people miss is the fact that our pay has several components, right? There's so many angles that goes into the flight attendant pay. So it's not flat out that, okay, your hourly pay is $33.15. So essentially, that's all that you're earning every single time. Let me do this a bit real quick. Yeah, give me a second. I'm just gonna continue. In and out of just checking my audio just to make sure that I'm heard, because you know how these things can be, just doing the mic text 1 2. Yes. So back to the pay. So when I say there's several components to our pay, and as a result of that, when you talk about your earnings, most people think you're inflating numbers or it's not realistic or whatever. But if you've watched my schedule reaction video and you've seen the income that I'm earning per trip or per rotation, I feel like that should give you a good perspective of what the actual pay for flight attendants are. But I do understand, because at the end of the day, with the way things are set up, my airline is currently one of those airlines that are paying the highest. And if you're a flight attendant and you're earning your hourly pay, it's already starting off at $20, $25 or $28. That's not a good start, because having done this job now, I can confidently say that the amount of time that we spend away from home, please let me know in the comment section if you can hear me as well. The amount of time that we spend away from home, when our pay are prorated over that period or over the hourly period, it's really not enough, right? So that being said, if you're starting off at $20, your pay is not going to be enough already. It's not going to be enough. And that's the unfortunate reality. But with my airline, what I can say is that my hourly pay when I started as a new flight attendant was $33.81 per hour. And my layover pay per hour was like $2 and some change. I think it's like almost $3. Let's just say it's almost $3, y'all. Okay. So if I work a trip and that trip is worth 20 hours, if I work a 3-day trip, that's worth 20 hours. That 20 hours is the flight time pay, which is what my hourly would be calculated against, right? So it's going to be 20 by the 33.81. So 20 by 33.81, which will put you at about $676, right? For that 3-day trip. And my layover is based on the hours that I'm away from base. So let's say my layover pays $2 right now per hour, and I'm away from home or base for, let's say, 67 hours of that 3-day trip. So realistically, that gives me an additional $134. So in total, this 3-day trip that I'm working is worth about $810, which is almost $1,000, right? So realistically, you can make good money. And when I talk about our pay in my videos, those are the true numbers. Those are the real numbers. So don't compare the reason I say don't compare, because I don't work for the airline that's paying $28 an hour. First of all, I'm not working for the airline that's paying $25 an hour. I'm working with the airline that's paying me $33.81 as a first-year flight attendant. So if I'm working there and I'm giving you the breakdown of what the actual pay is, go by that number. I don't know what the other airlines, like, I know what they're paying, but they're not paying what I'm getting paid, you know? So those numbers are true. And as I've always said, y'all, several factors play a role when it comes to flight attendant pay. Several factors play a role. So if you're commuting, it's going to be different. If you're commuting, your expenses are different. You're traveling, you're probably not able to meal prep, among other things. So all those factors play a huge role. So keep that in mind as well. This, move that. Okay, here we are. Sorry, I had to step away for a second, but I was still talking anyway. But so that's the thing. And it's one of those things where at the end of the day, I can only speak for my airline and what my pay is. Once again, if you're making your way into the live and you have any questions, please drop it in the comment section below. If at any point in time you can't hear me also, please let me know, because the sound goes on and off, so you never know. But yes, flight attendant pay, realistically, and then I know somebody also asked me in the comment section, or they were actually commending the fact that the video that I created about my 1-year anniversary and my 1-year pay gives them a better perspective of what to expect if they become flight attendants. One thing that I do want to add with regards to that video in terms of my 1-year pay is that the pay that I got for that 1 year is still going to be different for somebody else. So somebody else at my base who was also a new flight attendant might not have earned as much as I did, or probably earned less, or probably earned more. The reason why I say that is because the way our trips and the rotations and everything is built, we don't have like a typical 9-to-5 job where there's guaranteed hours for everybody, where we know that strictly everybody's working this amount of hours, right? So there's a lot that is uncertain, but it's what you make of it. If you choose to work a lot one month and you choose to work less the following month, it's all up to you. But if you specifically work with my airline and you don't commute, because I don't commute, y'all. Mind you, the income that I made during that first year, which was like $55,000. And I forgot to add this also. During my first year, I did the profit sharing income that they did give us. I did get the profit sharing. And when I add the profit sharing to my total income for that year, it put me at over $60,000 for my first year. But the profit sharing money, the reason why I didn't include it is because the taxes on that amount is different. and it's kind of high. So it kind of makes that amount of money like insignificant in a way, especially if you're not getting a lot. But realistically, my total income for the first year was over $60,000 if I add my profit sharing bonus or my bonus to it. So it is realistic for you to make a good amount of money to sustain yourself your first year. It's not the best, it's not perfect, it's not the best situation, but it's better than nothing. And knowing that potentially you can get to the point where you're making $10,000 every month, or 6,000 every 2 weeks, among other things, is possible. Like, I have seen pay stubs, y'all, and it's one of those things where this job is hard. It can be stressful, especially when you find yourself in safety related issues, or you're having to evacuate or deal with difficult situations. It is a lot, and the time that you do spend away from home is a lot. And I know somebody asked a question about trying to figure out, because they have a family and they're trying to figure out how long they were going to be away from home. Sometimes our 3-day trips has us away from home for like 60 hours or more. So if you're gone for 3 days, you start maybe in the morning the first day and you come back in the evening the last day. That's 3 days that you're away from home. You might not be working the entire time. However, you are away from your family, you are away from home. So expect that. And if you're a new flight attendant, you're probably going to be the one working those 3-day trips. You might not be able to hold the kind of layovers or the trips that you want. So I want you all to be realistic when it comes to that. Like the tough week that I had, if I was a more senior flight attendant, I probably would not even be working those trips to begin with, let alone to find myself in the situation that I found myself in, you know? So it's one of those things where summer flying is coming. It's going to be tough. You're going to wonder why you're doing this job at some point. The pay might not feel as good as it is, because technically we're away from home more than we're getting compensated for. But it's just one of those things, or summer is one of those moments where you have to focus on the positives, figure out your why you became a flight attendant, what the benefit is in this job for you, and just focus on that, because it is going to be difficult. It's going to be very trying. Oh my God, y'all. You can't believe moments when these things happen. It's so annoying and it's so stressful that you can get so mad that you start questioning yourself. But it is what it is, y'all. But once again, just expect that it's not always going to be glamorous. Flight attendant pay, the pay that I share here, is realistically my pay, y'all. Like that's what I'm getting. And I know it's not every airline that's earning that amount. Like if somebody works for Spirit, I can expect them to be paid $33.80 an hour. It's not going to be the same. If somebody works for a regional airline, they won't be paid the same as somebody who works with a mainline airline, because the workload is different. Fine, the stressors are the same, but our stress, whatever makes the job difficult for both of us, differ from airline to airline and from regional to mainline. So I'm not going to say that our job is more difficult than theirs, but the conditions, and depending on what the situation is, the amount of customers you have to deal with within a period of time are different. So it calls for different stuff. But one thing I will say is, if you do end up with my airline and you start off well, I do want to do a full video and talk about those things for sure. But if you're new to this channel or you come across us live, my name is Priscilla. I'm a Seattle-based flight attendant who's always here to share her experience with you all. And in today's video, I was essentially talking about summer flying and a few hot topics with regards to flight attendant training and flight attendant pay. So if you do have any questions with regards to this live, just drop it in the comment section below. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you ready for summer flying? What has been your worst experience during summer flying? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you all in my next video. Thank you for joining the live. Bye-bye.